Introducing the ultimate seat cover, Tiger Tough. Proudly made in the US of A, waterproof and backed by an unconditional warranty. Yes, you heard it right. 2 years on vehicles and a lifetime guarantee on heavy equipment. They have you covered for manufacturer defects, normal wear and tear, and even those oh shit moments. Tiger Tough covers are meticulously crafted for a perfect fit with over 30,000 pre-fit designs, ensuring they stay in place without any shifting or sliding. Plus, they're even machine washable. Don't settle for less. Get a seat cover today that's built to last. Order today at tigertough.com/dirt. Get a free logo embroidery on your first order if you use the code DIRTBAG at checkout. Once received, show us your new badass seat covers with your logo and tag us. Experience durability and quality with Tiger Tough seat covers. Toughness guaranteed.
I personally don't know the career path to get into estimating. I don't know if that typically starts in school or when they usually get interested, but have you seen where that career path kind of jumps in for an estimator?
I'm biased. I'm going to say that earthwork site utilities is going to be probably one of the hardest to be an estimator for
Gotcha.
because you have so many different production rates. Like you look at roofing, that's all based on square foot. You look at concrete, that's going to be a lot based on square foot. Obviously, there's different complexities to projects and, things like that. But, you look at plumbing, right? It tells you your fixtures, it tells you your piping, your linear footage, all of that. So, I mean, I think just knowing those rates in those areas, you could step into that field fairly easily. But on the earthwork, the mass site work, the civil side, that's where you have to have an understanding of like, okay, what the fuck am I doing? What is a production rate? You're telling me, and if I put a 7-foot bucket on a whatever size machine, I can move this much more dirt in this much time. There's so many different variables.
Yeah, I feel like there's so many different variables to mess it up. And I have so much respect for estimators because obviously it's not my thing. And I'm like, I don't even know where I would start. But yeah, there's so many variables. You're talking like burn rate on your fuel.
Yeah.
And you have to have it dialed in, but it's also like controlling things that you sometimes can't control, like how
Correct.
well your operators and your laborers are moving and how quickly they're going. And obviously when stuff breaks down and change orders and it is that like the math brain type of person where
You got to be math and you got to be very, very organized.
mm,
Because like you'll get callbacks of like, oh, hey, we're gonna change, this section to this, and we're gonna reroute through here. Give me a cost reduction based off of current rates. And then you're like, okay, well, how the fuck did I, going back, how did I bid this to make sure I'm not shooting myself in the foot? Here's our overages, here's our unders. Where's that happy medium? What's my cost? And like any industry, there's variables. I just think there's so many more variables on the earthwork civil guys because every contractor looks at us like all you fucking do is dig. That's it. It shouldn't be that hard. And it's like it's funny. I had a contractor call me this week because there's some stuff going on in Fargo, and he just calling to get my opinion on things and seeing if we're okay basically. And it was a fun conversation, and they're a very big company. And I got to asking him, I said, how are you guys doing? It seems like you're kind of phasing out of this area as well. Seems like you're migrating into different sectors. And he's like, oh yeah. And he was, telling me about that. And I said, well, what's your highest cost subcontractor right now? And he goes, earthwork site utilities. And I'm like, well, yeah, you understand what goes into them. And he's a very
yeah.
smart guy. He does. And he's like, yeah, but it's just fucking ridiculous. All you guys do is dig and put something into the ground. And I'm like, I won't say his name, but I'm like, there is so much more that goes into that. Like, I
Yeah.
would love for you to see the back end of what it looks like on art. Because most contractors that we work with, they know a lot of the building scope, right? They
Yep.
understand the plumbing, they understand the framing, they understand the roofing, they understand the concrete. They've maybe done it in a time or two, right? But 90% of them have not been on the earthwork side. So they really have no idea.
Man, that's interesting. I love it. On the estimation side too, because obviously people starting out, like you don't have an estimator, that's the owner. And if you're
Just
just
video.
you're just kind of eyeballing residential jobs, right? And then
Yep.
is it kind of when you start bringing on these commercial jobs where you get into estimating, or when is that like shift over from like I gotta probably go deeper into this? Like, do you still do that on residential jobs, or is that mainly when you switch over to commercial?
Yeah, I mean, you do it. That's how you start out, right? You
Yeah,
start out on these smaller residential jobs, and that's like your first taste of estimating. Okay, how, because again, we bid everything based on time, right? What
sure.
is our production rates? We break the bid down into basically every section of the project, the differences in our storm, sewer, water, our excavation, our backfill, our aggregate base courses, all of that. So we break that down and then basically time those out per section. And you start by doing that with residential too. Okay.
Yeah.
What are my costs associated with this job? How long is it going to take me? And that's how really you kind of get your foot in the door of that estimating side. And it doesn't really change. It just gets more complex.
Yeah.
And then just understanding um how to keep keep a good record of your costs and understand those costs, and then again just knowing what goes into doing that project.
Yeah, with residential, I've seen some guys or a lot of guys they'll grab like a piece of equipment like a dozer and they'll have an hourly rate for that piece of equipment and that's how they'll charge their projects. Is that how you did it coming through residential or did you do it a different way?
100%, like that's how we started in residential, because you start out and you have a good idea of where everybody is at for like an hourly rate. Like you hear through the grapevine, just maybe being in the industry, oh, so and so is $125 an hour for their skid steer. Okay,
Gotcha.
you go out and do the same thing, and you're like, well, I'm going to be $125 for my skid steer too. You don't know what you're making, and you don't
Mhm.
know if they have the same skid as you. Like looking back now, there's so many red flags that I'm like, you're an idiot for even like assuming that, but you don't know any different either.
Yeah, so then let's go on that. So somebody that did throw out currently a cost for their skid steer or price per hour, $125, like what would you do differently in that situation knowing what you know now?
I probably would have dug into like what the true cost of the machine, and there's calculators out there, right? It'll get you relatively close to what production rates are, how much your fuel burn is, and it'll give you close to your cost per hour. Like when we did it, we didn't do it until 2022. So we had been running for 4 years without really knowing a cost. But like a skid steer cost us, it's like $87 an hour
Just the cost. Is that
with
with the
everything, just
with
just the cost. That's not labor, because we
wow.
we we separate labor out. But then when you're estimating that, you're not always going to have a laborer in that skid. So you have to understand your utilization rates with those machines.
Mm,
Okay, hey, that's why you want to break your labor out of it. Because if I do put a laborer in there, say I'm charging $80 for my labor, right? That really bumps your skid rate up and that kills your competitive edge, because you're saying you are utilizing that machine 100% of the time when that person is on site, which is not true.
gotcha. I know you've been doing utilization rates quite a bit more. Were you using those when you were doing residential back
No.
in the black iron days?
Nope. When we were doing residential, our sole goal was just to be price competitive, because that was the only way that you would get into these home builders. So we understood where the pricing was at, and basically we just blitzed all these homeowners and we're like, hey, here's our pricing, and we would maybe make $1,000 on a house if everything went
Yeah.
perfect, and none of them went perfect. So understanding that, we knew like, hey, we're underbidding these a big time,
Yeah.
but that's the residential world in my area.
Yeah. So when you say like nothing went perfect, I mean, what was the most consistent issue that would come up?
There's always something. There's rain, you have delays,
Right.
your plumber might be late to where you've already dug, you're paying an operator to basically sit there to do the utilities in. Okay, you think that there's going to be enough room on site to hold all of your material. Nope, you were wrong. You have to now haul out a shit ton of material. You don't have a close dump site. There's just so many variables that you're like, fuck, didn't think about that. And then you just learn them as you go. It sucked, right? Because you spent more money learning these lessons than you did making. But again,
Yeah.
it's just making it work.
Yeah. And I suppose too, you probably dealt with this a lot is just setting the right expectations for the client, because you have basically a different boss every single job you take on, unless it's with a home builder. But if it's just truly a residential client, you need to set the right expectations, because I'm sure you've dealt with it. If they're getting a rough grade and they're expecting a final grade, and you leave and they're like, "Hey, you need to come back. This
Yep.
is not perfect." I mean, you got to then deal with that client, and
Correct.
you're thinking, okay, reputation, or do I just go and fix this and say I'm not going to work with you ever again?
Yeah, yeah, it's all about reputation, even with a home builder, right? Because
Yeah,
I'm going to go out on a limb and say every town, doesn't matter the size, is a small town somehow. There's people that know people, and people start talking, and you can get a very bad reputation very quickly, and then people won't work with you. So my head, it was always fix it. Even if I never work with you again because you have a sour taste in your mouth, at
yeah,
least it's fixed, at least it's
yes,
done. And same with home builders. It doesn't change when you get into the commercial world because you still got to have your cocksucker pads on. If they ask you to do something, oh, well, that's not in my scope. I'm not going to do that. They're going to kick you out the door and find somebody else to do it.
yeah,
And that goes into kind of the world of building those relationships. Unfortunately, when you are young in business, you are going to have to sacrifice a little to show that you care, and you have to know that's not a two-way street.
yeah.
But once you get that established, that's when you start to kind of transition like, hey, no, you can start saying that.
Yeah, but you probably see people and companies do that for you as well, where they'll sacrifice a little bit. Maybe they're a sub, maybe they're hauling, maybe they're working for you as an employee, and they're willing to sacrifice a little bit on the salary, or they're willing to sacrifice working late, something like that. And that builds respect and rapport with you as well. So it definitely goes both ways. But yeah, I can see how you'd need to do that, especially being younger in business and starting out. And yeah, if you want to go get it, it's out there, but you kind of have to give a little and probably quite a bit in certain scenarios to go get it.
You do, and that has to be mutual, right? Like there's a trucking company in town to where when our low boy goes down, because our fucking trucks always blow up on us. Like they'll move our equipment and just be like, "Hey, no, don't worry about it. We're not going to bill you for it. Just call us when you need hauling." And they
Yeah.
know we're going to do that. But you can't have that unless you build that or earn their trust somehow, and it's got to be a two-way street for that aspect.
Yeah, and I mean that's just business in
Yeah,
general. It's you get past the invoicing and all that, and you're just like
correct.
helping each other out do business, and it ends up working out so well. But yeah, it blows my mind of people that just want to destroy bridges and absolutely burn them to the ground. I'm like, I don't even know how you have enough energy to focus on burning this bridge down when there's a million other things you should be doing.
Correct. It's, not to change the subject here, but it's funny. When we started this, and obviously this is our podcast, we were
Yep,
going to start this out and we weren't going to use this as a recording. But all of the topics that we're talking about, I had written down as possible rant topics. So it's
that's
working
perfect.
well. I have drawing the line with contractors, how to build contractors' trust. We haven't talked about, I have an underline of stress, and then promoting within, the bad side of entrepreneurship, and knowing when to say no.
Oh, dude, I love it. So the only thing we missed in this episode is an intro, but
Yeah.
I like how we did that. It's funny. We hit record. We're like, let's just roll with it. We'll tell Brandon when we started,
Yep.
and all of a sudden we're 20 minutes in. I'm like, well, we're rolling with it. So,
That's
um,
fun. No, that's
dude,
good.
why'd you write stress down?
I feel like those are I'm trying I thought of like relatable things in the industry, right? And stress is one that is very prominent and is very present, but it doesn't get talked about a lot. People don't talk about the bad side effects of stress. And I don't know
Yeah.
if I'm the right person to talk about the side effects of stress, but
Hmm.
I'm very familiar with it. You live off stress. Cole and I, we were talking about it today, and we're like, that's our caffeine, that's our nicotine, is the
Yeah.
stress, and that's probably unhealthy, but it's always there. I mean, you can't get rid of it. Maybe when you're 30 years in and you've got everything paid off and you've got people under you running everything, maybe your stress goes away, but I don't see it.
Yeah.
Like,
I think what you're saying there too, stressed to the point of giving up and throwing in the towel and being like, I'm just going to retire. I just want to go golf and do nothing. That's
yep,
different than stress being your caffeine and being like a little bit sick in the
yep.
head of like, I just love the challenge every single day. It's going to suck, but that's why we're in this business. I think those are two different types of stress. And one you probably kind of need, otherwise you're not challenging yourself enough, I think.
Yep.
And then the other is just you're probably way overworking yourself and not getting enough done because why are you so burnt out that you can't do anything and that you
Yeah.
just want to throw in the towel?
Yeah. And I think acknowledging like it's really tough.
Hmm.
Like Andy Frisella says it all the time. It's the hardest thing that you'll ever do. And he's right.
Yeah.
You do have to be a little sick in the head to be like, I'm anxious to see what tomorrow brings. I'm ready for tomorrow. I'm going to go to bed and, chalk it up as another day. It's my mom. I was talking to her about it today.
Yeah. Liz
Speaking
Payne,
of
shout
that,
out.
she's shout out Liz Payne, but she heard our episode with John and she was like, Luke, that was great. So she'll probably be listening to this one, but she was just, and obviously my parents being involved in entrepreneurship too, they understand. But it's fun to hear like her perspective because she's always like, Luke, I just admire, perseverance and not trying to pat myself on the back. But it is fun to hear that sometimes because it is very hard. And she's like, I just, in today's world, it's very tough. There's so many different obstacles. It's a lot harder, in today's world than it was in your dad and I's world. And I'm like, yep. And I was like, what keeps me going is knowing that it is very tough. And
Yeah.
there are probably a lot of people that would throw in the towel. And that's where I ask myself or say to myself, well, somebody's got to do it.
Yeah. Dude,
Right.
and I love it. I love it too because yeah, I mean, we're all just in this and it is probably something sick and messed up in our head, but yeah, somebody's got to do it. And at the end of the day, I'd rather it be me. And I
Yep.
would rather, and not to say that my job is harder or less hard than anyone else's, but I love it. I love the thrill. I love the challenge. And it's something exciting to talk about. Like think of
It is.
recording a podcast if everything was always going well.
You wouldn't have a podcast.
There wouldn't be much to rant about
No.
and also not much to relate on. And I think that's why people listen to this podcast and listen to other shows is that it's like, yeah, this is great. We're talking about the good stuff, but like, let's talk about something that's actually relatable because life isn't always as great as it seems on the outside. And we were talking about that before the show too, of when it comes to, hiring within and, perception of how companies seem to be doing from social media and on the outside, but how they're actually doing and how it's important to talk about those things with others and just make sure that are being as transparent as possible. I think and I'll back up a little bit, but you and I on this show, it's important for us to be very transparent because people are listening. And so we want to make sure that they see both sides of it. And
Yeah.
that's, I think, why we kind of filtered in the rant topics because it's been good to come in heated on some of these episodes and go through everything that we're going through in a day-to-day life and business. And the messages we get back is that, we're no different than anyone else running a business. It's very
Correct.
common.
Yeah. And everybody goes through the same shit. It's just on different scales,
Yeah.
which we've seen.
Which you've talked about too with
We have talked
your
about that.
guys' trips too. And that's been really cool to hear more about is it's cool seeing you guys are at different levels, but it doesn't change anything really. It's
Yep.
you guys all have the same issues, just sometimes with different zeros on them.
Yeah. Everybody goes, yeah, the respect you should have. I mean, the respect I have for business owners is huge because I know what people go through. Obviously, I'm not at a stage that Will Schuler is, but him and I can relate to each other on certain aspects, and he understands where I'm at because he was there, and he can give me very good advice, right? And vice versa type. So it's really cool to have those friends and have those people message you and just ask questions with, bounce ideas off of. Um, it's funny. Joe, is it Joe Plum? Joe JP Land Services, I believe it is.
Yep.
Shout out Joe if you're listening. Let me look at it's on our LinkedIn messages. Yeah, Joe Plum. Oh, it's been fun. I've been chatting with him on LinkedIn for
He's the man.
some time and just super nice guy. And I don't remember what we were talking about. We were talking about demo and on how we do it here versus how they do it. And I remember I brought up a point of like we don't use trucking for it. All we use is roll-offs. And he must have taken that and he won a pretty big bid. And he
Let's go.
messaged me and he's like, "Hey, just letting you know, took your insight, won this bid, super anxious." I'm like, "Fuck yeah, man. Like I wasn't even trying to give you advice. I just let you know like what we do." And those conversations are super fun and you never know when you might learn something.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. Kind of a side topic with Will Schuler is I got a notification that somebody filled out our form on our Phaser website, and a guy named Adam Swain. And I was like, oh, sweet. And so we jumped on a call, but his note that he wrote is, heard you on the Dirt Talk podcast. Will Schuler had mentioned your name. And I was like, oh gosh, I feel terrible because I haven't even listened to it
Him and
yet.
Aaron, yeah.
And so I went back and listened to it yesterday or 2 days ago and had it on like 2x speed so I could find out where it was. And
I don't know how you
yeah,
do that.
I mean, I was just
I
trying
know
to,
I get trying to find the spot, but like my
yeah,
brain would get so confused. Anyway,
yeah. And yeah, and he gave a little shout out to the Dirtbags.
he
and
did.
and dude, it got me thinking about that webinar he did with us, and it was so cool. Just opening up everything, and jaws were on the floor. People couldn't believe like the amount of detail that goes into it, but
Yep.
it was really cool to show like the craft of this isn't just made up stuff. And we didn't get here just by guessing. There is a process to this, and you don't get here from day one. He's been doing it for a long time. He's still a very young guy, but there's a lot of hard work that goes into it.
Yeah. And knowing Will, I mean, Will's got a mind like really
He's
nobody
Superman.
else. Yeah, nobody else that I've ever met. I mean, dude is just a genius. So he's
Handsome,
got it. Yeah, handsome,
great dimples.
really good snowmobile rider. The dude's just got it all.
And he's tall. I didn't expect him to
Yeah,
be
he
as
is
tall as he
tall. He's
was.
like he's like 6'2", 6'3".
Yeah, great guy.
Um,
Christian.
yep, very, 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 very Christian. Yeah, he's just the too bad. I mean, I shouldn't say too bad he's got a girlfriend, but if he didn't have a girlfriend, he'd be the pick of the litter.
All right, you dirtbags, we're going to take a quick break to thank one of our sponsors, Lambert Insurance Services. If you know Luke and I, you know we started this podcast to provide value to the construction industry. When we went to seek out an insurance company to work with, there's not a whole lot that are specific to the industry. And we really didn't want to work with a generalist agency, so we kind of put that on the back burner. Then we got to meet Sam Lambert. Sam is a fellow dirtbag himself. He's been in the industry for a long time, but he also started his insurance company in 2008 specifically for construction companies. So when we had that conversation, we knew that this would be the perfect match. So we started working with him, and he's been incredible. He leads first. He wants to be a resource first and an insurance agency second. They can help with provide general liability, workers' comp, commercial truck insurance, insurance for equipment, and so many more different avenues that he can provide coverage for. The great part about it is, they're licensed in most states, and they always quote through multiple companies, including Progressive Commercial Insurance. So that's how you know you can get a competitive rate. And even better, Sam, he's the owner. He wanted to provide his cell number just so if you have any questions, specifically from the dirtbags, you can always text him, give him a call, ask to compare plans, or just ask, what his rates would be, and then he can help direct you to the right place or answer your question from there. His number is 385-204-5799, or you can reach them at their website, which is lambert-ins.com. So reach out to him if you have any insurance questions. We're very excited about this partnership. Sam is an awesome guy, and we're just excited to continue providing value for all you dirtbags. So thank you, Lambert Insurance. Give him a text, shoot him a call, let him know that you're fans of the Dirtbags podcast. Let's get back to it. Yeah. I mean, and he's just a great, nice guy. And I know I met him at Dirt World Summit, and it was just so fun talking business. Like, I think deep down, we all just love talking business with each other. And it's really cool when you can just have those conversations and just get lost in in the numbers, into strategies and everything. And I like, sometimes we'll have when some of my friends that really love business, they'll come and visit us. We'll have like hot tub talks. We'll just go chill in the hot tub, have some beers. And then somebody told me this one time, they're like, we didn't get our MBA at a college. We got it in the hot tub. Like, having
100%.
those business talks is just so much fun. So
That
I
is
love
fun.
just getting lost in those conversations and really diving in.
Yeah, and I mean those are the ones that you'll always remember. You'll always have something to take away from those, and it's just fun bonding.
Yeah. Where are you guys going on your trip next year?
We want to do a hog hunt. We want to
Oh,
go
that's
down to
right. Yeah.
Texas. Yeah.
Texas.
And
Yep.
if any of our guys are listening to this, for our Christmas party, I'm gonna give away a couple hog hunts this year.
Jeez.
So I'm anxious for that, but I am going on all of them. I don't care what they say. They have to go with me, and I'm gonna go
How
two
many
or
are you
three
giving
times.
away?
probably two or three of them, depending on how the year ends up, but two or
Yeah,
three
you're
of
just
them.
gonna be
And then
gone the whole time.
we'll have a couple groups. I think you can do like up to five.
Dude, that's fun. So you have like a guide, I'm guessing, and
Oh yeah, they take you up in a helicopter and like you get I was talking to I can't remember the name, but it was a company in Texas and basically they're like, "Yeah, you get 2 days of full flights. You can pick your gun, you get all your ammo. We got this fun lodge, you can do a night hunt." And I'm like, "I am in." So, all
toss
three
on
of
the
those,
night
I'm going.
vision.
I don't care what anybody says, but I'm going on all of them. Cole might
Dude,
have
that
to fight me for it, but
yeah, that's true. He might have to slip in on one of those, but
yeah.
dude, that's
But yeah,
awesome.
that's what they want to do too for our next trip to answer your question is do a hog hunt. So
Yeah,
that would be fun.
that'd be cool. I mean, that's just like an unofficial mastermind that became official, and now you guys are like doing it every year, and I'm
Yep.
sure it'll even get more structured too, where you guys are like, all right, yeah, like let's actually dive into more business and let's be prepared with these types of numbers and these questions, things like that. But then just the boys just hanging out, having a good time. I mean, that's what it's all about too.
Yeah, I want to make it an annual thing. I think it
Yeah.
would be fun to like, do some really fun things and build that group up and, just make it kind of like I don't want to say destination because you don't know where you're going to go, but make it like I don't know, obviously a goal, but something to really look forward to on the year. Like, I can't wait to talk to these guys about this. I can't wait to bring this up. Can't wait to go to the steakhouse and pay $1,000 for a meal.
Dude, and this sounds crazy, and I used to think this was crazy before like running a business, but yeah, paying $1,000 to go to like a steakhouse or something used to be just only the 1% of the 1% would
Yep.
ever do something like that. But then if you plan for it and you make it a special occasion and you get together with the right people and you have the right mindset, like that is like nothing
It
compared to
isn't.
what you spend on a daily basis. And if you just have the right mindset towards it, it's like, yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. $1,000. I spent more on flights last month than that. So then why not make this a special occasion or something? So I've definitely opened up way more to things like that. If it's with the right people, if it's the right mindset on the right occasion.
Yeah. You think about it, 365 days. If you take a full year from when you get back to where, maybe that next trip is, right?
Yeah.
360 days or even
Yeah.
save
$3 a day.
$10. Yeah, you save $10 a day. You've got 3,600 bucks that you're like,
Dude,
I'm putting towards this trip, my flight, whatever. And there's your savings.
I think, yeah, it's just figuring out your priorities and then
Yep.
cutting the useless stuff that, it, no matter what, the money has to be there.
Correct.
And you just need to cut some things out and make it a priority to do it, to go.
100%.
So I'm
100%.
wondering too, yeah, if we start, because I think you guys should continue having that group, but then you and I could potentially look at opening up something that's a bit more broad, where like
Yep.
we could meet with a bunch of people. Where, hey, come if you want to join us. It's at XYZ Casino in this place. We're going to be doing this, and that way we're not on the hook for like booking people's rooms or anything. It's just show up if you want, make it an annual thing, get people excited about it. But that could be something fun too.
That would be fun. Make it like exclusive. You
Yeah.
get 30 signups, and these are the topics. We're gonna have like a very like intimate conversation regarding these things. I think that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah. And like you said, something to look forward to, because everyone listening is
Mhm.
probably like, damn, that sounds like a great time going hog hunting with the boys. But,
Yeah.
you know, not everyone's invited to something like that, but it would be cool to bring something together that is optional for people to
Yep.
say, yeah, I want to jump in on that. 30 contractors, we'll get together there, something like that.
Yep.
Our schedules are all wide open a year from now, and that's something to just toss on the schedule and plan for.
100%. No, I agree. That would be really fun. But yeah, I mean, we had a good rant topic tonight, Luke. I think we covered a lot of different bases. Obviously
Let's
started out with the estimating, but
yeah, and then so I know we had the stress one, but what was there's one other one on your list I think that I wanted to touch on.
promoting within
Promoting within, and then I think there might have been one more, but
the bad side of entrepreneurship.
yeah, we could touch on that. So promoting
I think
within,
that one should be its own
yeah,
episode.
we could definitely do that.
I think we should have somebody on and have them be a guest that has gone through some shit and really touch on some of the bad things.
Yeah, we could even have potentially a couple people or a few and do
That
almost like a roundtable podcast,
that would be cool.
which would be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But when it comes to promoting within, I can't even remember if this was in the current episode or if that was cut out before we started, but uh, I think that's super interesting because it is so expensive to train and hire and spend your resources and time getting somebody up to speed, where even like up to speed with your culture. So the importance of promoting within, especially if they're like an A player type of person where they're already accustomed to everything you do, they're already bought in. Like how important is that to get them up the ranks and to have and to seed that vision, I guess.
I think it's important for your whole team. That's why you have a team, right? They want some sort of vision of like, how am I going to grow with this company? How am I going to make a career out of the current job I'm at? Instead of, having to look beyond and be like, do I have to start my own business? Do I have to look at this other company because they have a lot more work? You really the roadmap for that is very detailed and tough. And I mean, we don't have a perfect one by any means,
Yeah.
but you definitely, like you said, it is very expensive to train, retain, keep these employees. And then if you lose them, you're spending a lot more trying to retrain, and then not to mention your time, everybody else's time. So treating people the best you can while you have them, I think, is very important. But yeah, and then also just having that roadmap, say somebody starts out as a laborer, how can you be running the company someday? And obviously that's a very big step, but it's,
Yeah.
something to talk about. If it's the right person, absolutely.
Yeah. And then do you ever ask your team, like for example, somebody you might be promoting or you'd like to get into more of a leadership role or move up the ranks? Do you ever talk to your team about that? Like, hey, like, do we want this person around? Do we like this person? Do we, what are your guys' thoughts? Um, yeah. Do you ever do that?
We rely we'll call it the uppers. We rely on the
Yeah.
uppers within the company to give us the feedback of their crews, the people that are, you don't want to say, well, yeah, underneath them. You're right. They're running the jobs. They're the boss on site. They're the lead. So yeah, they're crews. We rely on them to give us that feedback on what they like and what they don't like. We also really rely on like the leadership team to present, like, train your replacement. You
Yeah.
want to move up, train that person, train Steve to do what you can do so you become valuable to where you can learn somebody else's job.
Yeah, because somebody's got to take that person's job when
Yeah.
he or she gets promoted. But yeah, if you've trained your replacement and you're crushing it and you're ready to go, I mean, that's an easy promotion sometimes to be like, yeah, the stars align. We'll give you a bump in pay, we'll give you a bump in responsibilities. There's an opening, you have your replacement, let's go. I think what becomes difficult for a business owner is when it's not that easy, or when it's like, yeah, I know you want a promotion, but somebody still has to do your job and we have to go find that person, and that's difficult. And then you have to train them, or we have to train them. So if you can make it as easy as possible on the business owner, and having somebody that's excited to replace you, getting them trained up and just keeping that communication channel open with the owner, I think is really important.
Yes, I would agree. I think people also need to understand that you're going to be paid based on your value. So if you're an entrepreneur within your company, you're going to be that person that is trying to teach anybody everything, because then you become so involved that the owner can't replace you. And that's where your value comes. And that starts with, like you said, somebody wanting a promotion. Okay, great, you want a promotion. That's not being an entrepreneur, right? That's just somebody looking to kind of level up in the ranks.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that'll happen, but if you were to train somebody to do your job before you came to that person with before you brought up the promotion and said, hey, this person I've been, taking under my wing, I've been teaching him everything, right? And those next steps, it's a pretty easy transition. but it's on
Yeah.
the owner to really lay that out as well. But also, it's on the team to understand that vision too. Like, hey, if the business is doing good and I am helping the business, I'm going to succeed as well.
Yeah. There's a lot to go around there, and there's a lot of value, and there's a lot of money, there's a lot of benefits. And if you can help the business continue to scale up and continue to be healthy, I think there's more opportunity out there than people realize.
I agree.
And but it's not that you're entitled to that, but if you help get there and you're on a great communication plan with the owner and you have a plan ironed out, I think a lot of people will be surprised what is out there long term for opportunities.
I agree. Very small minded to be jumping from company to company for $1 an hour raise.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a
I'm
great
sorry,
point.
but that's on regular time. That's $40 a week. Is that really going to benefit you fully with 40 additional dollars a week? If you work 52 weeks at that, that's 2 grand
Minus taxes.
minus taxes. So I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Why not try to present your value, show your value, and then try to move up in that company? Because there's not a lot of companies, and they're still out there. There's a guy, I'll tell this story. There's a guy in Arizona that has relation to one of the girlfriends within our company. And basically he called Cole and I the other day and was like, "Hey, I heard good things. I'm looking to make a change. The company that I work with now, it's very old school mentality to where they think if I teach somebody under me something, they're going to take my job and I'm going to be out of a job." Which in today's world, that's not even remotely close.
Wow.
Look at how hard it is to find people. So
Yeah.
again, going back to showing your value for your employer, if you were to stick things out and have these conversations of like, what can I do more? How can I show you my value? And you really take that upon yourself to show it. Hopefully your employer isn't dumb enough to just brush that to the side. And if they are, you know what? You can go to another company and you'll move up the ranks probably pretty quick.
Yeah, because at that point, it's not all about the money. And I think
Correct.
that proves your original point of if you're jumping for an extra buck or a couple bucks an hour, but you don't align with the company values, I mean, it's like marrying somebody for their looks.
100%. 100%. It's nice at the time, but you know,
30
holler.
years in, those
Yeah, it's
jokes, those
like,
jokes get old.
yeah, yeah. They do get old and you'll get very sick of people. So,
Yeah, I that cracks me up of just like people that just marry their wife or their husband for their looks. It's like, well, you gotta you gotta hang out with this person for the next how many years and decades.
yeah,
You gotta at least think they're funny or like enjoy talking with them or playing board games or you gotta enjoy their personality as well. So I feel like
yeah,
it's the same thing with companies.
I agree. And I think understanding the grass is never always greener on the other side is a huge thing too, because people sell on pipe dreams and they'll move jobs and it won't be as good as maybe what they had, or the opportunities are a lot slower. But I think that big gray area is just having those conversations of like, what does this look like? And if they don't have those conversations, that's where people are very easily sold on these pipe dreams from these other companies, but it turns out to be worse.
So what would you tell somebody that works at maybe a very old school company that they don't love, but the paycheck's pretty good and they feel fairly safe and they want to come work with you, but they don't know if the grass is greener over there? Like, what would you say in that scenario?
I wouldn't sell them on we're better than this company,
Hmm.
right? I would ask them what their frustrations are. Well, I don't have a way I can move up. Well, I'll
Gotcha.
be honest, I don't really have to sell you then because it sounds like you want to move up. What I'll probably do is, talk to this person, see what the opportunity that they have in front of them.
Mhm.
Don't take it from me. Talk to some of my guys. Here's some of their numbers. Call them. In
Yeah.
my opinion, I wouldn't sell them because I don't really need to at that aspect.
Yeah. No, I
Those
love that.
are
I think
those are pretty
the
easy.
yeah, selling out of desperation, I've
Mhm.
figured is always the wrong way to do it.
Yep.
And yeah, I love that. It's just like, yeah, you can talk to the people who you want to be like potentially. And those are our employees, the people that work for us. And I think of the same thing with business too, of clients that potentially want to work with us, and we get all the questions and all the workarounds. And I'm like, I'm not going to beg for you to come work with us, but if you want to call any of our clients, like you can find any of their numbers or DM them, and yeah, you can just ask them like, what do you think? How's it been? And same thing on the employee side. It's just feel free to ask them.
Yeah. I'm not going to sell you on a pipe dream of how we are so much better than the other company because I don't know that company. I don't know what's good and what's bad.
Mhm.
I'm going to tell you our processes and what we're trying to accomplish, and that's probably it. I'm not going to try to sit and spin things and say that they're so much better over here because we have hard days too. There's days
Yeah.
we don't always agree, but it's those are very small things. You have to look towards that bigger picture.
Yeah. Undersell, over deliver.
Yes.
Learned that very early on. And that's with hiring employees as well. Don't try and sell them the world, because then they're going to get in and realize there's shitty days as well. And they're like, oh, you didn't promise me this. But it's like, that's the point of it. But instead of what a lot of us do is overselling and then under delivering. And then that just becomes a shit show.
I agree. That's it's funny you bring that up because I was just thinking of like this situation from this guy from Arizona, right? He had asked, I had told him kind of what we do, what we're about. Obviously, he had talked to one of our guys because he's a cousin to his girlfriend. And I didn't really have to say much. I just, asked him kind of what his expectations are. Cole was on the call. He asked him what his goals are. And then we asked, hey, where do you want to be for a
Mhm.
wage? He told us. I'd like to be around 32, 33, I think is what he said. Like, well, I don't know if you're worth that. So what
Mhm.
did we do? We offered him 29, which is within our standard of, when we take on new people. Hey, I'm going to offer you at this. Let's have a 60-day review. After that 60 days, let's see what your strengths are, see if you could possibly move up into a different position, and then that'll come with pay. But I am not going to give you the moon if I don't know how you operate.
Yeah.
If you want
We,
to take a chance on me, do it, right? But then I'm going to take a chance on you as well.
Yeah, and I'm sure you probably that didn't come right away. You didn't just learn
Nope.
that. I mean, that you probably learned that from experience, from just you got to go through it of like, hey, I'm going to give you the moon, and all of a sudden it kind of goes to shit, and then now you're readjusting like, well, let's stick to our standards, stick to our principles. There's a reason we set them. And
Yep.
then yeah, I mean, we
Follow
can
them.
absolutely have a 30-day, a 90-day review, and let's see if we can adjust you to that rate. But that means that they're going to go earn it, and they can
100%.
absolutely make it happen.
Yep. And I think that falls into how kind of the market is right now too. You don't have to physically beg people. I've heard of people that have like, I don't care what you do. I'll pay you $35 an hour if you just show up because they needed the manpower. And now it's like that's really not the case. There is a slowdown. There is really good people looking for work. So if you're worth what you're saying you're worth, you're going to show me. I'm not going to start you there because I can't bring you down, but
Yeah.
you can always go up.
Yeah. I mean, that, like we keep talking about, that helps paint the roadmap too, and
Mhm.
help set, excuse me, help set the bar as a business owner a little bit lower so that you can raise up to that. Because if you pay somebody $35 an hour, that's great. But then in a year, you should probably be paying them more.
100%.
And you can't start at the very top. And we even had that situation recently, one of our new hires, and he's more than worth it. But we just, as a business, we have to look at our numbers, and we just couldn't afford what he was currently making. So we offered basically a pay cut, but
Mhm.
to work with our company, and he came on, but we have the plan to ideally give him a great career, but then let's get you paid more somehow. And the business has to continue making money to do that.
And that is I feel like that's a huge marketing sell. You have to market your brand to where people are like, fuck yeah, I'll take a pay cut to go
Yeah.
work for them because look at the opportunity that presents itself in a year, two, three with them.
Yeah. And actually, that's a great point, because him and I are working very close together, because he wants to be an agency owner one day, which goes into a couple of our other points. And I was like, absolutely. Yeah. Like, well, let's work together one on one. You can help us build out our systems.
Yep.
I'll tell you anything you want to hear. Like, I don't care. And help educate him as well, give him a good salary, but then yeah, in 2, 3 years, at least my expectation is that he could leave,
Yep.
but we're gonna get a lot done in those 2 to 3 years. So that's a little bit different than the situation we were talking about earlier of having somebody unexpectedly leave after a few years. But
Yep.
in this case, like I'm almost planning for it, but that's kind of the graduation and the send off, but then train your replacement, like we talked about. Make sure we have somebody ready to go. Give me a heads up, of course. Give me 4 week notice, 2 month notice, whatever. I'm not going to handcuff you to us, but yeah, just let me know and it'll work out great. So that's where we're at, and it's been very healthy and very good. And it's just, have your succession plan though ready to
Yep.
rock.
Yeah. Have those SOPs. Build
Yeah.
those out when you are rocking and rolling. Build those out when you notice something like, oh, I want to do this differently next term, or I notice like, hey, this has we've tried both ways and this way's a lot easier. So let's just, do this way next time and just have that kind of as a standard, your standard operating procedures, right?
Yeah, I was just actually I wrote that down. I was just gonna take a pause for a second. For anyone listening, SOP is standard operating procedure. Like Luke said, it sounds very fancy. At the very, very basic level, it can be a Google Doc with a checklist that just says, anytime this happens, we do this. And
Yep.
you go down the checklist and you just do that. The point is to be very repeatable every single time something happens. So for example, if we bring on a new client, every single time. We have an SOP that goes through everything we need to ask for, the message we send, the access we need, the billing email that it sends the bill from. And so you can relate that to any business, any personal thing in life, anything, there can be SOPs. So just having something that's very repeatable that you do every single time.
Yep. And that's going to be a forever changing document. It'll never
Yep.
stay the same.
One of my coaches actually, they don't call them SOPs, they call them playbooks because it's
Oh yeah.
always changing. It's always it's a little bit of a better word for it too, and it's like this is what we do in this situation and this is, our playbook for it. But
Yep.
the easiest way I've found, have a Google Drive, have different folders for each of the different situations. It could be billing, operations, sales, fulfillment, whatever it is, and then have those subfolders. And then having people that are doing the work create their own SOPs really helps. Because
Yep.
what I ran into is like, okay, I get it. Yeah, I should build out an SOP for creating a Facebook lead form ad. But what if I don't know how to do that? Or what if I don't create those? Then
Yeah.
it
Why would
wouldn't make
you
any
make that
sense.
then? Yeah.
Exactly. So then it's having the person on the team that is doing those anyway, either screen record or develop that checklist and show exactly what they do every single time so that the next person that comes in, they can just repeat those steps and adjust it as needed as well.
Yep. Absolutely. Great point, right? That's why you hire people that know more than you do.
Yeah.
So why would you try to create those procedures when you have somebody else doing them? Have them give the roadmap.
Yeah. They would all be just very average, lukewarm, just kind of terrible.
Pun
But yeah,
intended.
yeah. And bring somebody in that can give it res- the time that it deserves, and because you can't do everything as a business owner, so
You
having
can't.
somebody jump in and help there will really help you, especially as you scale. I think it's most important.
Mhm.
And I know you guys are working on a lot of your systems as well, like, okay, well, we do this every single time, how can we make sure that everyone knows exactly what we do and what our standard is?
Correct. Correct. And yeah, you just have to make that well known through your company because you might know it, but you're not the one that really I mean, you have to enact on it, but it's going to be your whole company that has to enact on it for it to work. It can't just be one person.
Yeah, because an SOP is only as good as the people that follow it. So if you're not
Correct.
following it, if you're not setting that standard of like, hey, when we do this, you need to follow this,
Yep.
then it's worthless.
Exactly. But hell yeah, man. Well, I think good rant. We haven't had a rant in a while, and we covered a
Yeah.
couple different topics there.
No, that was good. Yeah, dude, that was I'm trying to think. So we'll have another Q&A. This one comes out right after the Q&A. So we'll have a guest the next episode.
Yep.
Excited for that one. We've got a few in the hopper. We just got to make the call and figure out who we want on. So
Absolutely. Nope, I agree. And obviously we're going to keep on rolling them, and we appreciate everybody that listens. Again, keep sending in questions, send in rant topics that you want us to go over. We'd love to hear them.
Awesome. Good stuff, dude. We'll see you at the lake.
Peace.